Palworld the game came out recently and has been both the receiver of great praise and scorching criticisms. I personally bought the game day one and played it blind to the criticism it was currently facing on the internet. Meaning that the next day, when I saw it trending for alleged plagiarism in AI, I audibly sighed as yet another thing I loved was tainted by moral ambiguity. So first off, let's take a look at these negative claims, and firstly with the weaker one, the use of AI in Palworld. As of now, there has been no actual proof that Palworld uses AI to design its monsters. People claiming said use of AI are doing so just based off of their gut, or citing tweets from the CEO talking about the growth of AI, or talking about another person's use of AI to make fake Pokemon. And while I think it's valid to use these as evidence that it's possible Palworld used AI, outright claiming it did is just damaging to people with valid criticisms, while also spreading misinformation. A more constructive complaint would be to say that the designs feel AI generated, because it states the problem and critiques it without directly citing it to an unconfirmed rumor. The next claim was one of plagiarism, that being that Palworld plagiarized, to no surprise, Pokemon. Okay, but this one is probably true. At the very least, many of the designs in Palworld could be considered derivative of other Pokemon designs. And by very least, I mean the least. That is at least what it is, because as you scroll down the PAL deck, there are some that look closer and closer to Pokemon lookalikes, to the point people online are going through the trouble of comparing the in-game models of the PAL to its Pokemon lookalike, and time again, you can find modeling comparisons just a little too close for comfort, as if the artist traced a section and kind of moved things in and out a bit to just make it not exact. Yeah, this is bad. It's plagiarism. It's kind of a weird thing for me to take a stance on, because I think oh yeah, that Pokemon reminds me of Lucario, or more importantly, MatPat's Pokemon for Markiplier to that sort of thing is fine, because at the end of the day, there's still unique meat on the bone. But all these instances where it's very clearly the equivalent of tracing over another person's work, it just needs to go. At the very least, I think Pocket Pair needs to take their big ol' pile of money they just made and at least remodel the designs from scratch. And if they did that, they would get the eyesore "I don't think this game is too controversial to enjoy" seal of approval. But until then, consider this review as non-canon, or rather, unofficial, because any recommendation or compliment towards this game is kind of invalidated by the fact that there's too close to call cases for if this is plagiarized or not. And before we start, I just also want to take a moment to say that it's okay to have a different opinion than me about this game. In fact, I welcome it. I just ask that when trying to show your thumbs up and or thumbs down reaction to this game, you don't make things up to try and prove yourself right, because this game shows enough things objectively to make you feel one way or the other. So don't pretend that the game was made with AI, and don't deny that the creature designs are derivative of Pokemon, because the fact that you enjoy this game and this thing looks like this thing can both be true. Especially considering Pokemon themselves aren't afraid to be derivative time to time. Okay. Now that I've covered all the external factors about the game, it's time to talk about the actual game. As you likely know by now, the elevator pitch for Palworld is Pokemon with guns, a sort of idea that I had been clamoring for personally ever since that one guy made a fan game where you can shoot other Pokemon. But after being sold on the sales pitch and downloading the game, I think the more apt description for this game is Pokemon Early Access Survival Game with guns. Eventually. Because loading in your main gameplay loop is collecting resources to build resources, to collect more resources, to build more resources, and so on and so forth. Lego Fortnite, 7 Days, Minecraft, you name it. Its core gameplay resembles it. From clunky progression, menus within menus, and a wiki in-game being required to keep people from getting lost. This genre has a lot of positives to it as well, but it's not really my cup of tea. I end up spending most of my time in the game upset that I have to chop down tree after tree to build anything at all, as I am currently chopping down tree after tree to build something. But like I said, these games do have good things in them, and that core appeal of the crafting survival game is definitely here too, even if admittedly my personal bias makes them far less visible to me. But that's where Palworld shakes things up, because by throwing the PAL system into the game, it single-handedly fixed my least favorite thing about the entire survival genre: tedious, busy work. Palworld lets you catch your pals not just to fight alongside you, but also work beside you as well. With each pal having their own labor stats that allow them to do certain jobs, if managed properly, you can create a base of operations where you can progress through building said base and getting the tools to automate resource gathering, which I love so much. My least favorite feeling in the world is when I'm mid-progression with iron tools in Minecraft when I suddenly realize I'm out of wood and have to go back to chop down a random tree or two. But in Palworld, if you progress and set things up properly, whenever I need more raw material, wham, look, I got this dude chopping trees for me. I love that. I love how if you wanted to play it as a straight survival game, you could. Or you could focus on the monster fighting. Or you could focus on sort of town building element. It feels like you're given so many tools to progress, since you and your pals gain experience via fighting, catching, or working. It's just so immaculate. Palworld feels like, for better or for worse, one of those games where the devs blatantly took several good games and just kind of molded them into a new experience. The best example of a game like that is probably Fortnite, and Palworld fits that mold very well. Well, sort of. The game's visual identity is very weak, weaker than its counterparts, but its combination of genres and the fact that it has just enough sauce in the pan to not make my basic ass chicken recipe taste dry, I enjoyed playing Palworld a lot. But that's just my non-canon, unofficial opinion until they iron out some of the blatant plagiarism and shift things more in line to parody, because that's what this game largely boils down to: a parody where it's the word Pokemon followed by a conjunction and the word guns or building or Breath of the Wild or etc. And I think that's fine. And I personally think that if your designs are not going to fall far from the tree, that's okay too, and the guys, that the similarity is the point, the appeal. But making commercial work by not just taking the framework of the parody design, but doing so in a way that uses other people's work is too far for something that's going to make a lot of money. And to get the ball rolling, Pocket Pair, feel free to use my concept art as a guide to making your models more distinct.
Your shadow eternally in my way.
To an automatic voice message system. At the tone, please record your message.
Hey man, just getting back to you about that whole Palworld game. I recently played some more of it, and I just wanted to let you know some more of my thoughts on the matter. I think first and foremost, the game is really fun. The gameplay loop is really good. I don't think I talked about the actual monster collection aspects of it, or the exploration of the game well enough in the initial script or whatever. So I just want to say this. It's fun. It's not as fun as its contemporaries, which is a common trend in this, but the way that it's combined with everything, you have the exploration, you have the little goody treats you get for exploring, like the lift monk energy or whatever, and then, you can find new monsters and collect them and then get the XP for it, or you can find, random secret shops or villages and stuff like that. Really fun. Very, very basic, very soulless, and, yeah, that's pretty much the main thing. I also want to say I did play the game multiplayer, but I like it a lot. It's kind of weird how the base system worked. You couldn't be on the same team, but also not have more than one base until you upgraded a base level or something, which is unfortunate, really, but it's fine. Yeah, dude. I think outside of that, I think the largest. dude, so much has happened with the whole like plagiarism thing because I made this script like 3 or 4 days ago, and Nintendo's apparently looking into it, and then like I think I read an editor's note, but apparently the guy who made it, he said he like scaled the models to fit more accurately, which you might look at that and go like, oh, so he modified it to make it look more accurate. But I'm pretty sure what he means by that is he just made the models smaller and or bigger to fit the size of the thing it's comparing to, but I could be wrong, and so I have to put a little asterisk, and it creates this sort of controversy. It just muddies the water, and I think that's part of the problem with the huge amount of misinformation that's being spread about this game, is that as a result of it, it's hard to like de-misinformationize things. Like I was in the trenches, like looking through Twitter, looking through the internet, and it's hard to like really point a finger at something and say like, this is the most accurate cause, or like, you know what I mean? And in that regard, I think Palworld is just a very muddled mess in terms of its gameplay, in terms of its external factors, in terms of the fact of like the way everything just looks together. But I'm okay with that because it's a muddled mess. You know, it like looks like a bucket of like mixed Lego sets that are like half built, and some of them are a bit dirty because you got them from your cousin who doesn't keep his room clean. But despite that, it's still a really fun bucket of Legos, you know? I'm still like what I'm doing with it. I'm gonna keep playing it more and more. So, yeah. Crazy to see how this game would be in a year or two. Anyway, that's all I gotta say. Peace and love. iSource signing out. And don't forget, you owe me $5.